Welcome to the HR Empowerment Podcast, where we will uncover strategies and new insights from HR professionals who discuss up-to-date regulations, best practices, and the most pressing topics like diversity and equity, leadership, dealing with difficult situations, and much more that affect your bottom line and business. Thanks for joining us.
Hey everybody, Wendy Sellers here, the HR lady. Thanks for coming back to our show. We are in for an interesting topic today. We're going to get into some psychology and psychological safety and trust. And we are going to be talking to an expert today about how to build a psychological safety organization that is, really focused on trust. So welcome to the show, Georgina Woudstra. Hello.
Hello, great to meet you.
Yeah, you
Glad
too.
to be here.
So you are the founder of Team Coaching Studio and an author of Mastering the Art of Team Coaching. I love it. I am so excited to have you here. Where are you calling in from?
I'm actually calling in from Malaga in Spain, but I'm normally based in the United Kingdom.
Okay,
So
awesome.
I'm having a good time here in Spain, where people are very easy to relate to, as far as I can tell.
That's awesome. Yes, I've been to Spain and it is such a difference. Even, when you just go across over here, I'm in the United States, state lines, culture changes, but over there, it's another country's right there. And
Yeah.
it's just so interesting. But, in the big picture, Georgina, people are people, no matter where you are, right?
Exactly, and people gravitate towards certain kinds of people and not other people. People have issues with trust in every country, and people have trust in certain brands and not trust in others. It's kind of foundational to how our relationships hum. So it's a very important topic that we're going to be exploring today.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself, like your background. How did you end up being an expert at this topic?
Well, I'm an executive coach, and I've worked as an executive coach since the early 1990s, so over 30 years now. And before that, I had an entrepreneurial career. So growing, building, selling, very, very diverse businesses. I was always interested in business. So from fashion to transport, to technology, I just found I had an aptitude for business. But when I discovered coaching, I really fell in love with coaching because it seemed to bring together different worlds. There's the world of business, there's the world of personal growth and personal learning. And that whole realm of spirituality, of potential, of questing beyond what we know and what we can see. It just seemed to bring all that together in a very individualized way of working. So in the early 1990s, when I discovered coaching, I decided that's what I wanted to do. I got trained and I decided that's what I was going to commit my business to. So I've had many years of working mainly with chief execs and with their senior teams, executive teams in different countries and in different industries and sectors. And I just find it endlessly fascinating.
It really is. I mean, I'm reading a statistic here, and it was actually based off of a study done in the UK. The global coaching industry is projected to reach approximately $7.3 billion this year. And last year it was at $6.25 billion. I mean, that's a huge
Wow,
increase. And,
that is.
for our listeners who are mostly HR operations and even managers who have to wear the HR hat because they don't have human resources, they might be too small. What the heck even is a coach, in the employee sense? What's the purpose?
Coach is a very individualized way of helping an individual to really think about their learning and growth and what it's going to take for them to reach their potential in whatever their role is, whatever their area of interest is. So you have life coaching and you have executive coaching. My work's in the executive realm. So you could say it's a way of being, coach is a catalyst to an individual reaching their potential. And then if we extrapolate that to team coaching, then a coach is there to support a team as an entity to reach its potential. So coaching has been around for 30 plus years. working with individuals, but team coaching is relatively new. It's a discipline that's only got accredited in about 2022.
Wow.
So yeah, so very recently got professional accreditation. Before then, I was campaigning the various coaching professional bodies to try to get it recognized as a distinct discipline with a distinct set of competencies and an understanding of what good looks like. So yeah, it's about being a catalyst for potential,
Yeah, I
whether
love it. I love
individuals
the
or teams.
fact, and I love that you just brought up about team coaching because even when I was prepping for our podcast and our conversation today, like all the statistics that I find and everything, so much is focused just on executive coaching. But I think this is very important to our conversations. I'm reading a statistic right here that said a survey of 100 executives revealed that the average return on investment of executive coaching was almost 6 times the cost of the coaching. And so you got the cost and then you get 6 times the result for executive coaching. Like my mind goes, well, what can that do for team coaching? Hello. And Georgina,
Yeah.
who's responsible, for the team coaching? Should it be the manager? Should they learn how to be a coach? Or should it always be an external coach like yourself?
I think it's both. This is quite a big topic, really, that we could dive into in the sense that um, so many managers who progress through their career path in an organization at some point in time shift from being an expert in a particular field or domain, like a marketing expert or a finance expert, to becoming a leader of a team. And suddenly they're a leader of quite a few other people who are looking to them for leadership. And often their training, their degree or their postgrad training or their work experience hasn't been on leadership. It's been on their area of expertise. I'm a great accountant or whatever it is. So it's a big shock to suddenly lead a team and one of those big break points in people's career. Now, where does that learning come from? Well, sometimes it comes from looking at how you've been led when you've been a part of a team, not a leader of a team, part of a team.
Right.
And often there aren't very good role models for that. Research going back for 30 years or more says that at best, only 20% of teams are effective. Some research
Wow.
says only 10% of teams are effective. And yet we keep putting people in the same situation. We keep saying, go lead this team, make the
Hmm.
team brilliant, without really supporting people in thinking through how to do that. Then, when you take it a bit further, you think about the classic executive education. Well, executives are sent on leadership development programs. Usually, those programs are offsite, and they're usually organized into 3 modules: leadership of self, and about your own gravitas and your potential to communicate and to influence, leadership in the organization or systems leadership, and maybe if you're lucky, team leadership. And then that hero leader is meant to go from the classroom and transport these ideas back to a different context, to their workplace, and make them stick. Well, that
Wow.
seems like a certain kind of madness to me. Why not make the team collectively responsible for its development rather than the one hero leader who's meant to come in with the goods and transform the team? So I think over the next decade, we'll see a huge shift of instead of just leadership development, where we're developing individual leaders one at a time, to team development, where we're working with developing the team as an entity. However, we've still got to go beyond where development has been in the past, because team development has been around again for the last 30 years. But it's not shifting the dial in terms of the team's potential. We're not seeing those research results going up in terms of team effectiveness. And again, why is that? Because a lot of the development work happens where you have an external expert who's coming in, who's saying, here's my model of team effectiveness.
Right.
Here's how to stop being dysfunctional as a team, or here's what high potential teams looks like. We're going to measure you against some kind of profile. We're going to identify the gap, and then we're going to tell you how to close the gap. And then the consultants get the hell out of there, leaving the team to do the work. And we
Right.
know transfer of learning to real life in the workplace is at best 10%. It
Right.
just doesn't work. So we've got to keep on doing the same old thing. Where team coaching is different is it's all about the individuality of the team. It's all about working with the team as a unit where their real work happens. It's all about the transferability of the learning, the sustainability of the learning. So it goes from being transactional to truly transformational.
Right.
And
Right. I
that's
love
why
it.
it's such a groundbreaking approach in technology that is really at early days in terms of taking shape about what it can become.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk a little bit how this coaching now connects and specifically helps build trust and psychological safety. Talk to us about that.
Well, psychological safety, according to Amy Edmondson, is a belief that one can speak up and take risks and show up fully without fear of being shamed or rejected or punished. Um, Trust is really the willingness to be vulnerable based on positive expectations of other people's intentions and behavior. So, together, psychological safety and trust is like oxygen for a team. You don't notice it when it's there, but you sure do notice it when it's not.
Oh my goodness,
Um,
I love that analogy. It's so
yeah,
boom, so perfect, so perfect.
yeah, yeah. You literally cannot perform without that oxygen of psychological safety. So, in teams, psychological safety and trust enables candor, enables people to have a voice and enables people to bring their voices together to leverage opportunities and leverage potential. Without candor, creativity and accountability are completely stifled, and you're left with a lone leader trying to make decisions and strategic decisions by themselves. And of course, a lone leader only sees a situation from one perspective, from one lens or their own frame of reference. Whereas with a team, you've got way more collective intelligence to tap into, but only if the trust is there that enables you to tap into it.
Yeah, I mean, psychological safety is one of the three things employees value most in today's workplace, followed by, of course, pay raises and flexible work, right? And so
Yeah.
there was a study done in 2023 that more than 8 in 10 employees consider psychological safety as one of the most valued aspects of the workplace. And then there's this other statistic from a different study that I read that said, organizations who emphasize psychological safety report a 27% decrease in turnover, a 76% increase in employee engagement. And get this is also an amazing one, 50% rise in productivity. Who the heck wouldn't want that? So, with that said, Georgina, where do we start? If our listeners are going, you know what? I like those numbers that Wendy's spouting off. We love what Georgina's saying. Where do we start of helping
Yeah.
our employees get psychological safety and trust? Should everybody have a coach? Should we have executive coaches, team coaches? Is that a yes for everything?
Well, it is a yes for everything, but I think about psychological safety and trust as being something that happens between people. So therefore, it makes sense at team coaching. In fact, one of the perhaps the failures of executive coaching is when if you're an executive coach, what you notice is that maybe 80 or 90% of the conversations you have and what clients bring to coaching is about how they develop their relationship with someone else or tensions in the relationship with someone else. And often, as a coach, you find yourself thinking, this would be so much better if the people implicated were here in the conversation. So that's what team coaching does. It works the spaces between people, it works at the relational level. So I would suggest that your listeners start there and think about really developing in-house team coaching skills. If the organization is large enough to have their own coaching or leadership development faculty, I would strongly recommend they develop team coaching skills. Otherwise, there are a growing number of trained and accredited team coaches across the globe who can support. And what they will do is they will intentionally slow things down in order to create more contact between people. It's a funny thing, Wendy, if you watch a team working together and you see a team conversation, think about how much time the team is actually on and how much time they're off. Now, what do I mean by on and off? I mean, on is when they're actually truly in contact with each other. When one person is speaking, another is not just listening, but is understanding and then responding to what they heard rather than responding what was already in their head.
Right.
Most of the time, what you see is one person shares their position, another shares their position, another goes off on a tangent, there's another tangent. It's not on, there's no contact, there's no connection. And psychological safety and trust is minimal because people are operating on code, on power plays, on assumptions. So, first of all, the coach will slow it right down and will increase the team's capacity for making contact with each other. That's listening in order to understand, that's responding to build on what somebody has said, bringing in divergent ideas with permission, deepening connection, bringing in more emotional and more vulnerability into the conversation, more honesty, more truth, more depth. And skilled coaches really can really do that. And then they transfer that learning and build that capacity into the team. The whole idea is that the coach should be able to get that out there and that the learning and skills have really transferred to the team and team leader so that psychological safety and trust can be held across the team. But we don't do that in a 30-minute workshop or a brown bag lunch. It
Yeah,
really
right.
takes time because trust is built through a series of encounters with people over time. We need repeated encounters where, for example, we can fall out. We can say something that we don't agree with each other. We can fall out and have an argument, but we can repair that relationship. And through that, the relationship grows in its capacity over time.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've also written about another thing of coaching that I have personally not heard about, emergent coaching. Could you tell us more about what that means and how it helps teams perform better in the long run and individuals as
Yeah.
well?
Yeah, certainly can. It's a big topic. I could talk about it for hours. I'll try and get something in a nutshell a bit here. A lot of classic team development, traditional team development starts with a model. Let's say that your listeners may have heard of Patrick Lencioni's 5 dysfunctions of a team. It's a great model. There's loads of models out there, and that most of them are really good models, and there's some research that support them. So the consultant who's an expert in the model brings it into the team, talks convincingly, really convincingly about the model, and then measures the team against the model, identifies some gaps, and then seeks to close the gaps. There's an assumption that that one model is the best fit or ideal fit for each team. What you actually end up doing is putting a team through a cookie cutter process, one workshop after another, and then the team leave. They leave maybe going, wow, that was a really great workshop. But what consistently happens is the impact evaporates almost as quickly as it was gained. I call it the fizzle effect. So we've had a brilliant workshop. Hey, that was amazing, fantastic. Let's give everybody happy sheets, 5 out of 5 on the happy sheets, and boom, it's then gone. Why? Because the knowledge, the expertise, the wisdom, and the wow factor were in the consultant, the magic that the consultant can bring, and in the moment of the workshop. But the ownership of the team experiencing the workshop tends to be really low. And their mindset is actually, I'm here to have fun. This is a fun away day. Come on, entertain me, consultant. This is enter trainer land. It's
Right.
not about transformation. So emergent team coaching takes a different approach. In emergent coaching, we meet the team where they're at. We're not shipping in some kind of diagnostic tool or consultant's model that tells them they need to adjust to fit this frame. We're really looking to identify what's working in the system of the team by observing, noticing, sharing reflections, getting the team to become more aware. Awareness is our tool. Awareness of the actual team, not the theoretical team that the academic or consultancy born model brings in, but their real lived experience. So we do that through surfacing awareness. We notice patterns. We notice interactional patterns.
I love it.
And we notice where the energy of the team wants to go. So should I give you an example?
Sure, absolutely. I'm
That'd be
loving
helpful.
this. I'm
So
learning a
yeah,
great deal here, so I'm loving this.
cool. So I was working with a leadership team last summer, and it was in the UK. It was a leadership team in a healthcare organisation, private equity backed. Uh, Healthcare and care is one of the largest growing sectors, especially because of our increasing elderly population. Yeah, so there's a
Hmm.
lot of private equity going into that. And the private equity had bought this healthcare organization. We're expecting considerable growth. And I'd worked with the chief executive before, who contacted me saying, I've taken on this new role. We've got to grow this organization. Usual story. We've got to double it in size in 3 or 4 years. And I'm really worried about the team. There's extreme amount of conflict and contempt between my team members. They're rude to each other. They don't listen to each other. Our team meetings are like one fight after another. I just really struggling to get them to work together. And to be honest, I'm thinking I might just have to fire them all and start again. And yet there's so much historical knowledge in the
Yep.
team. I'm afraid of doing that. And I haven't been here long enough to have enough support in my leadership in the organization. And frankly, we don't have a lot of time. What can you do? What they had done before is they'd got together and they'd done an away day of 2 days using a team profile which described each team member's color. You know, I'm a red, I'm a
Yeah.
blue, I'm a this or that personality. And team members told me they'd had great fun and it was a brilliant day, but it hadn't made any difference in their behaviors.
Yep.
So rewind, start again from scratch, go back. And my first in plan was to have one-to-one conversations with each team member, not to run a diagnostic, not to run them through interview questions or any predetermined profile, but to really make contact with them, build relationship and trust, and to understand what their concerns were and what's on their mind and what was happening in this dynamic that was unfolding. After that, and I got everyone's permission for me to coach them in the room. This was significant. For example, one team member said to me, "Oh, I hate these team things, and sometimes I find when I get a bit agitated, I laugh like crazy, and I just lose it really. So I have to take myself out of the room. But that's just how I am." And I said, "Well, I want to make a new agreement with you. You can't be a team unless the team members are in the room. There's no
True.
point everybody else being in the room with you not there. So we've got a choice. Either everybody goes when you laugh and you want to leave the room, or everybody stays, including you. If we're going to do team development, you've got to be in the room. Are you up for it? Laughter or not? But see it through. Stay with it. Stay with me, and we'll see what we can do." So I'm making these agreements with each individual to say, let's get in the room and do some real work.
It's important.
Then,
It's important to have those
yeah,
conversations. I
really,
mean, we're all adults, even if you do
yeah,
have teenagers, they're about to be adults. Everyone should be held accountable equally to be in the room when we're
Yeah.
having a team meeting, never mind a team meeting about coaching and, team
Yeah.
performance. So kudos to you for doing that, because it is important so that they don't think, oh, I'm just here because I have to be here. It's like, no, I'm
Because I have
here
to be.
because I want to be here because I'm part of something. And it's hard to
Yeah.
get that mind shift to change, especially if they've got any kind of angst or problems literally with the
Yeah.
employer. But if you don't speak
Yeah.
up, we can't help you.
Exactly. It enabled me to say, what do you need from me to stay with it and stay in the room? I had a similar conversation with everybody, and really I'm indicating we're going to do some real work here and we're all in it together. And then when we get in the room, instead of putting them through a whole load of exercises that I'd already decided what we're going to do, I get in the room. This is emergent team coaching. I get in the room and explore what we need to create a safe enough space to do some real work. And that's getting everyone's voice in the room, encouraging them to go deeper, encouraging them to take some risks. And if you hold the space well enough, I trust that sooner or later, somebody will take a risk. And it
Yeah.
happens time and time again. Somebody will go, okay, I'm not going to dance around my handbag here. I'm going to say something that's a little bit contentious. I'm going to take a risk. And hallelujah, one of the team members spoke up and said, well, the reason I don't trust you is because you keep trying to constrain my budget so that you can keep money for your team, not for my team. And before I know it, they're having a fight. I'm going, great, fantastic. This is exactly what we're here for. And that gives me the opportunity to say, let's slow this down. Let's take a breath. Let's work through this. And then we work at the point of contact. So the
Right.
person who's um, speaking her mind to one person, once she's run that out, I say to the person who's receiving it, how was that hearing that from her? What did you hear? What did it feel like hearing that? What would you need to hear it differently? So we just stay working at that point of contact. Because if they're not, if they're not on, they're off. There's no point having the conversation. Let's stay connected.
Yeah. Yeah. The
And within an hour and
communication.
a communication, yeah, within an hour and a half, we'd had tears, we'd had tantrums, we'd had
Aw.
all sorts. And it was like a massive release. You can feel all the pent up energy and tension dissipate.
Yeah, I mean,
And
it
then,
it goes back to not to interrupt you, but like I'm getting excited about this now. It's the
yeah,
communication, effective communication, and trust and transparency is important. But so many employees, and I get it, they just feel like they're not being heard. So
third,
why should I even
yeah,
speak up? So I want to switch
yeah.
gears here a little bit. This wasn't on our agenda, so I just thought about this and looked up something real
Sure.
quick, is talking about the youngest generation in the workforce, Gen Z. And Gen Z, definitely has, as every generation does, I am definitely not picking on Gen Z, but they definitely have um, their own issues, and they don't necessarily trust everybody. I don't blame them. All us generations have gone through that and are probably going through it again as well. I found is interesting stat from the Mental Health Association of America. It says that a significant portion of Gen Z employees, 63% in fact, feel uncomfortable expressing their opinions at work, indicating a need for more inclusive communication strategies. So it's also funny because then Gen Z is also a culture that they're leaning into, their values and their purpose,
Yeah.
and they want to, not only be trusted, but to build trust. And so, what are your thoughts on that, on how coaching, team coaching, executive coaching, individual coaching might be able to help the managers and the HR folks that are listening to us today, specifically around the youngest generation?
Well, they're very fascinating stats. Thank you for sharing those, Wendy, and they certainly ring true for me. You were saying that the Gen Z don't necessarily trust and experience trust and find it difficult to find their voice in an organization, and yet they've got so much that they want to give voice to around their values and
and
around
and and they're
difference
open to coaching, which many
and
of us
open.
other, oh, I'm Gen X, many other generations are not open to coaching because we know it all.
Yeah, and they're open to coaching. So that speaks to me about creating better conditions, slowing things down so that people can build better relationships, practicing listening, practicing demonstrating that we are hearing each other, not just listening, practicing being interested in each other. I think one of the challenges we have with this very technology driven, fast paced world where fast is better and doing everything through an app is very efficient. But what it's costing us is the opportunity to really dig deeper into what we think and feel and need to be heard around.
Yeah,
And in
absolutely.
some ways, it's quite simple. It's
It
take
it
more time to
it
hear
really
people.
is. I was going to ask you, but you already answered the question is take like what's one simple step a leader can take to improve psychological safety and trust? And you just answered it.
Yeah,
Take the time to really care, right? To
yeah,
listen and to care. And I've been saying this for eons and it's not changing anytime soon is just what you said, faster isn't better. We as managers, as HR,
yeah,
as leaders, regardless of what your title is, we have to learn to slow down with our employees, which
yeah,
means we need to be taking, and listen up, HR, please. We need to be taking things off of managers' plates. If you promote somebody just, from an employee to a manager, you can't expect them to continue their employee job because now their manager job is to manage people, which means communicating, building this psychological safety and trust and transparency. And so thank you for bringing that up. Um, we're about to wrap up here. And I agree with you. I could talk with you about this all day. This is just a fascinating topic. I myself am not a coach. I looked into that arena. I decided to be a mentor versus a coach. So kudos to you for doing this and for everyone else because it's not an easy certification to get. And so, with that said, Georgina, where can our listeners find you and where can they find your book, Mastering the Art of Team Coaching?
They can find me on LinkedIn.
Okay, I'll make sure
Can all,
I'll put your LinkedIn address in the notes.
thank you. And our website is teamcoachingstudio.com, where you can find me there and reach out and find out more about our training and our courses. We also have a community of over 1,000 team coaches globally where we do ongoing monthly webinars and practice sessions and team coaching clinics. So it's a wonderful global community of practice, really. And my book is available on Amazon, and it's in paperback, it's in audio version, and in Kindle, so it should be readily available around the world. Yeah.
Awesome. I will make sure we put that in there. Thanks everybody for coming today. Before we wrap up, I did want to also let you know that we have an upcoming training more on leadership and leadership fundamentals, understanding the models, the styles, and then the adaptation of different leadership styles. So check that out on the website. And I will make sure that I have Georgina's information in the podcast notes. Thanks so much for your time today, Georgina. Take
Thank
care.
you, Wendy. Okay.